How to wholesale REO properties in the U.S. If you want to know how to wholesale REO properties in the U.S., I must admit that it can be a bit tricky. It requires different steps than wholesaling a home owned by a regular motivated seller. However, it can be accomplished if structured properly from the beginning. I had a chance to speak to my experienced title and escrow friend. She gave me the scoop on how to do this correctly. Now, what is wholesaling? Wholesaling is an exit strategy used by many investors in the U.S. Investors who execute this strategy call themselves wholesalers. Steps to wholesale property when dealing with a typical motivated seller. Number 1. Wholesaler submits purchase agreement to motivated seller to purchase the home. Number 2. Purchase agreement is signed by motivated seller and wholesaler. The wholesaler is named the buyer on the contract. Number 3. Wholesaler finds investor number 2 to acquire property. This investor will either flip the property or lease it to tenants. Number 4. Wholesaler reassigns his rights in the original purchase agreement to investor number 2 and a separate contractual agreement for an assignment fee. Number 5. At settlement, the assignment fee is included as a line item on the settlement sheet. Step number 6. Wholesaler receives his assignment fee and investor number 2 acquires the property. The steps to accomplish this transaction looks a little different when purchasing REO properties. The banks or financial institutions that own the foreclosed properties require that the buyer named on the contract be the actual end buyer of the property. In the steps previously discussed, the intention of the wholesaler is to have an investor number 2 actually acquire the property. Therefore, these steps will not work. Most banks and financial institutions do not allow a contract to be assigned. Therefore, one of the ways that some U.S. investors are able to accomplish their investment goals when purchasing an REO is to utilize a limited liability corporation, otherwise known as an LLC. Steps to wholesale REO properties in the U.S. Number 1. Wholesaler creates an LLC with the intention of the LLC being the buyer of the property and assigns himself as managing member of the LLC. Number 2. Wholesaler submits purchase agreement to the bank to acquire the home. The LLC is named the buyer on the contract. Number 3. Wholesaler finds investor number 2 to acquire the property. This investor will either flip the property or lease it to tenants. Number 4. Wholesaler sells LLC for amount of his fee. Step number 5. Wholesaler switches the managing member of the LLC to investor number 2 and gives signing authority to him. Number 6. Investor number 2 acquires the property. Conclusion. By now you can see that in order to wholesale REO properties in the U.S., proper planning and execution is required. More than likely, you will need assistance if you have never done this before, or if you have attempted before and were not successful. You're probably asking yourself, how do I get started? If you really want to wholesale REO properties in the U.S., leverage my expertise and have access to my experts. Check out my free webinar, 3 Easy Halal Strategies to Jumpstart Your Real Estate Investing Business. Click the link below the video to register for my 100% free webinar. Save your spot now, insha'Allah.